comes to chicken, I'm your guy.
Blinking.
I'll have what Joseph's has.
Look, somebody's talking about you.
This is what we call the voice of God.
Popping.
Everybody just gets to focus on you.
Grab me.
Probably not the best thing for an introvert.
I'm asking for you.
Well, I like a good chicken sandwich.
Touch me. Hi, David. Comment.
Oh my God.
Like.
You're actually an identical twin.
Push.
Maybe I'll just ask Julie to talk about what it is to be an identical twin.
Pick me up.
No, you didn't.
Shouting.
Surprise! Jeremiah, just hang on a second. I just got a text.
There's an edit for your new opening, Joseph.
I feel really honored to have been here, man.
By the way, you've done a masterful job. Seriously.
It was such a joy.
Thanks, Joseph. It's an honor.
Good on you. This was a pleasure.
I mean, you are the prime example of how to pivot in this new environment.
I wish everybody gets an opportunity to interact with Joseph Jaffe and Corona TV.
Who needs Cameo when I've got my own personal Cameo? Well, hello, everybody. I hope you are well. It is Monday. Happy Monday. I am in the judgment-free zone. I'm at Planet Fitness. There's no one here at the moment, though. Maybe it's because I got the keys to the door from a VIP to come in and train a little bit privately. These are the perks of being a web celebrity, as I call it, right? Which is a celebrity on the web. But today is National Myths and Legends Day, and who is more legendary? Who is more legendary than my guest today, Jeremy Tucker, the Chief Marketing Officer of Planet Fitness. Jeremy is going to be my guest. He is yet another phenomenal CMO that you're going to hear from, and we're going to talk about things that he cares about, things that I care about, things that you care about. Also, this is a very special time. It's 12 noon, and Jeremy's a busy guy, and so we were figuring out schedule, but I'm actually kind of excited to try out the show at 12. You got to tell me if you prefer the show at 12 or at 2. I like 12. 12 kind of goes over the lunch hour, so maybe it's an opportunity for more people to tune in live and participate live while eating the lunch. I'm not sure. I don't even know if people eat lunch anymore, certainly in the office. So much has changed. But Chip Griffin is here, and sometimes I think maybe the time suits him, right, Chip? Hopefully that suits you. And Johnny Sacchi is here. He's watching. He doesn't normally watch, so maybe that's worth it for him. And then, of course, my mom is here. It doesn't matter what time I do the show, she is still going to be loyal. So thanks for being here, Ma. Well, listen, I'm talking to the CMO of Planet Fitness, and so it just felt very appropriate because it is Monday. So it's Fat Blogging Day. So it's when I get to share my weight with you, which I've been doing every single Monday that I've been self-isolating, sheltering in place, locking down, whatever the case may be. Bob the Green Guy Farnham is here. He said, ask Joey Dumont. What should I ask him? Oh, if it suits him because he's on the West Coast. Well, I haven't seen Joey yet, but Steve Garfield has just finished lunch and now he's watching. So it's good to see your engagement. And Chip says, or at least Planet Fitness is a New Hampshire company. So I didn't know that, but now I do as well. So anyway, let's go back to fat blogging for a second. I told you last week that I thought the 184.3 was a bit of an anomaly. I said I would do better this week, and I did. 3.2 pounds, which I don't think was real 3-pound weight loss. I think it's just normalizing as well, looking at the moving average. And Jeremy, for just to tell you, I can see you in the green room over there. This is what I call weight loss by community, right? Sharing my weight loss publicly with people, and you can run, but you can't hide. And so that was the idea behind fat blogging. But let's just get back to Masters of Marketing for a moment. 4 phenomenal CMOs last week, and now I think Jeremy is the 6th in a series of 8. You can win a complimentary pass to Masters of Marketing, and all you have to do, and I'll just make this a little bit bigger for you, is subscribe to the show, bit.ly/Corona TV subscribe, or you can even subscribe to the newsletter. I'll take either one. And as I've said to you, slightly tongue-in-cheek, you can always unsubscribe. But if I see that you've subscribed to the newsletter or the show, I'd be only too happy to give you, while stocks last, a complimentary pass to this phenomenal Masters of Marketing conference. So let's just do birthdays very quickly. I like to always point out people that are turning 50 because that's what I'm turning this year, I should say, this week. Was soon enough. It's in December. Itamar Shane, Mina Gooley, who just turned 50, Jamie Mo Crazy, who was one of the previous guests on the show. And then, of course, there's Neil Seidman, Daniel Bernard, who just turned 50 as well. Good old Tom Dearline, Anthony Abramson, David Kenny. Oh, what? You know what I'm realizing as well is that I forgot that I've got the weekend. So that was Saturday, Sunday. There are way too many. Why am I taking so long to go through it? Let's just talk about people that are either previous guests, Jason Borowitz or Lisa Joffe-Whittles, who turned 50, and then just accelerate right through all these LinkedIn birthdays on Saturday. On Sunday, just point out one or two. Bob Killian, previous guest on the show, Larry Schroeder, Amaya Bloke, Rachel Ahmed. Happy birthday to all of you guys. I hope that you are not stuck at home or feeling stuck in general. We've just concluded Mental Health Week, which is something we're going to discuss today. I'm sure mental health, physical health, the two are connected and interconnected and very, very important. All right, so let's get into the seated soliloquy. And it's a little bit of a departure this week and today, because I'm actually not talking about something that is directly connected with my guest, but it's something that I wanted to talk about, something that I think is pretty topical and something that I wanted to share. So today's seated soliloquy focuses on Saturday's episode of Saturday Night Live. The guest was rising star, in Vogue star, comedian and actor Bill Burr. It was probably the most politically incorrect episode of the show that I can recall in recent times, perhaps ever. Not since Louis C.K. made his pedophile joke in his opening monologue do I recall doing a double take and paying attention to what was clearly a Twitter storm in the making. Now, I'll get back to the opening monologue shortly, but I'll just note two other moments on the show that fall into the good, which was a mafia boss comes out of prison after 20 years and keeps making insensitive comments on various minorities or constituencies. He's constantly corrected and rebuked, for example, by not referring to a person by their preferred pronouns, them, they, and their. The bad was picking up on J.K. Rowling's transphobic comments or Pete Davidson's criticism of little giant-nosed Jew goblins, referencing several Jewish tropes, including Jews controlling the banks. And then the ugly, an opening monologue that included this, and I'm just going to quote, "The month of June is Gay Pride Month. That's a little long, don't you think, for a group of people that were never enslaved," Burr said. How did they get all of June? The black people were actually enslaved. They got February. They got 28 days of overcast weather. How about you hook them up with July? These are equator people, end quote. His bit on complaining white woman felt a little safer to me, though. Now, as a Jew, I was offended by the anti-Semitic comment, but less so by the white woman complaining all the time. I suspect a Christian woman in the Midwest named Karen might have felt the exact opposite. I couldn't help but think about comedian Bill Maher, himself no stranger to controversy, on one of his rants that we've become way too politically correct and oversensitive. Have we, though? And if so, and even if not, where's the line? You know, what are the boundaries? How can comedians be funny when it's almost impossible to avoid offending people? Should we just lighten up and treat comedy like art or make-believe fiction? Or should we be even more vigilant, recognizing there is always truth in humor? But how the hell should I know? I'm just a talk show host. Now, obviously, I'm interested as to what you guys think. And Jeremy doesn't even have to comment on that if he doesn't want to. It's just something that I wanted to get off my chest and something that I felt was relevant and topical and current. So now it's time to actually get into my guest. Jeremy Tucker has served as Planet Fitness's CMO since November 2019. In this role, he's responsible for overseeing, I'm going to take a deep breath, the company's national and local marketing, branding, creative development and media, digital and social media, brand partnerships and sponsorships, communications, and corporate social responsibility. That is a lot of responsibility. Jeremy has nearly 20 years of experience across large-scale global industries, most recently serving as Vice President, Marketing, Communications, and Media for Nissan North America, where he served as the US Head of Marketing. Previously, Jeremy served as Vice President, Strategic Marketing for the Walt Disney Company. What an amazing resume. And he's also held a number of marketing leadership roles at PepsiCo, what I call 6 degrees of Frank Cooper. Tucker has an MBA in marketing from Southern Methodist University and holds dual bachelor's degrees in business and fine arts from Louisiana State University. And now he can add to his resume that he is a guest on Corona TV. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Hi, Joseph. Thank you for having me. It's so great to be here. Wow, what an introduction.
and let me tell you, your picture looks great. Your sound looks amazing.
Great. We're sweating it a little bit getting in here, right? I mean, these are the days where it's unprecedented. So thank you for the patience. We were both kind of figuring out if technology was going to work for us in this moment right before the green room and the show started.
And quite frankly, even once the show started, I wasn't even sure. Your picture was a little choppy, but now it's going. Is this the guest Wi-Fi network?
You know what? Thank God for guest Wi-Fi. That's all I can say. So you've got to have always a backup plan to a backup plan to a backup plan. That's the life of a marketer these days, after all.
I'm telling you, plan A, plan B, plan C. I mean, isn't that what it is? It's like contingency planning, the contingency planning.
Absolutely. It's like, let's stay the course. There's a direction we're going to go that way. That's the course we're going. And how we get there, we're going to meander a little bit because we're going to have to keep adapting depending on whatever hurdle or obstacle comes up in our way. So it's just about grit and perseverance right now.
Well, so now I'm going to do a little bit of live, what I call guest relations, which is I've noticed, and in interviews before, that I think you like to be called, or you are called, or you prefer to be called. These aren't personal pronouns, but certainly the nickname JT. So would you like me to call you Jeremy or JT?
Usually if I'm called Jeremy, it's my wife and I'm in trouble. So I would say let's go with JT right now, and that'll make me feel a lot more comfortable. How about that?
You are certainly not in trouble, or you would have been in trouble had we not been able to figure out our technical issues. But I'm glad it worked out. All right. So, in getting to know people, and I almost feel like I've already gotten to know you a little bit, not only just through the snafus with tech, but also just in our email correspondence. You seem to be someone that leans into, that's up for anything, very friendly, but also just a joy and a pleasure to work with. And so I'm thrilled to have you on the show. But I'm also thrilled to share with people some fun facts about you. So the first fun, I mean, we really have the ability to go into the archives here. So it turns out that you bleed purple and gold, not just because of Planet Fitness, but because you are an LSU Tiger.
That's true. I do bleed purple and gold, and wow, that's I can't believe you unearthed that from my past. Well, I look pretty good there. Nice tattoo that I don't recognize, but I guess that was college. So
yeah, exactly. there you go. But also, I mean, you are, you're from the South, the deep South. You're a Cajun. You're from you're from Lake Charles. And I assume you still have family there.
I do. Thank you. It's we've been hit twice with the storms coming through, but thank God all my family's safe, and my grandmother who still lives there, my aunts and uncles, everyone's doing very well and making it through it in the community. It's been very tough, but it's been great to see everybody rally together, and we're staying in touch and making sure everyone is safe in that area. It's also where my wife is from too.
I mean, it seems right now that We look at 2020 and we just laugh, right? We just laugh and we're like, well, of course of course this is happening. It's 2020, for God's sake.
I think we're going to remember this one for a long time, my friend. It is we keep saying the word unprecedented, but it's just like uncanny. There's nothing that really truly surprises me anymore, and I shouldn't say that because I think 2020 is just going to, who knows? But man, what a year!
I feel like the only thing that is unprecedented now is precedent. Precedent is unprecedented.
Can we get some precedent anytime soon? Because I'm ready for it. Let's go.
Well, we'll talk about best practices or precedent in terms of physical health and mental health. But my seated soliloquy was, I felt like I needed to talk out about what was happening, and I did a little bit of a Switzerland. I played both sides. I didn't necessarily say how I felt about it, except to say, kind of imagine being a comedian right now. It's unprecedented being a comedian, but I couldn't help but think about the comparisons to being a brand manager or a CMO in terms of, knowing full well that if you're vanilla, if you just are all things to all people, you end up being nothing to nobody. So when you push, when you actually try and break boundaries, or move, or create something that's going to break through the clutter, it's almost impossible not to offend someone. So how do you cope? How do you have that confidence and that, that self-assurance with your partners, etc., to be able to, not just be average and mediocre and satisfactory and push, but knowing full well that it is a bit of a minefield out there these days?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face as brand builders, as storytellers, as those who really engage in the hearts and minds of our fans. For me, what you said is actually the starting point of the conversation. And it's the one that I talked a lot about at Nissan and now here at Planet Fitness. It's not being vanilla. Like vanilla, it is the most popular flavor, but it's safe, but you won't drive across town for vanilla. It's just not going to be what's going to drive and really kind of create that resonance and the demand of our brand. So I always look to your truth. What is a North Star you're aiming for? What is the lighthouse, the beacon that you're trying to be for your members? And really being courageous on that. That's not being flippant. That's not being arrogant. It's definitely being what I challenge my team to be, very, very human. And what I'm blessed to have here, and much like I had at Disney, is I am in a founder-led culture. Like this culture that I'm in, the CEO that I work for, Chris Rondeau, he was like employee number 3 in the company, and it has 27 years going from the front of the gym all the way to our CEO, and has the vision, understanding of the brand, and supports that with me. So we often have conversations about what it truly means to be the judgment-free zone, what it truly means to be inclusive and to really welcome everyone. You talked about community, putting yourself out there with your fitness goals. It's so true, but we do it in a way that isn't vanilla. And in fact, that's one of the things that keeps me up at night, is we can't go and be clinical in this conversation. We have to do it in our own unique tone and voice, which no one else can do. Because if someone else can do it, then they're not being true to the brand, or we don't have a brand. And a lot of that means that you've got to put yourself out there. But the good news for us is we have humor, we have heart, we're a little bit edgy, and we always just call it like we see it. And I think that humanity is what really allows us to lean in with our members and lean in with the different segments that we address and serve in the population. And we try to do that in a way that, again, is just very human. Because there's one of my favorite quotes: if I talked to you a way advertiser would talk to you, you probably would punch me in the face, right? We smell it, we see it, we don't want that. So that's why humanity and brand purpose means so much as you go to market.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. And I think, you use the word truth. And as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, you know what? Truth is truth. It's the truth. And you can attempt to spin it, but at the end of the day, it's always going to separate from everything else. It's always going to rise. It's always going to be able to establish that higher bar. And I think if you are true to yourself, one of quotes I like to use is, you can't fake authenticity.
That's right.
And I feel like so many brands today are struggling because they don't know who they are.
Right.
You know, and so that's the problem. The problem is when you don't have the rock, the foundation, that solid foundation, when the ground below you is shaky and crumbling, it's impossible to move forward.
Yeah, I think it's a big portion of that is having the courage to be who you are. You know, in your book, you talked about looking in the mirror and not being like, you know, I want to be the 20-year-old guy who's ripped and in shape, but I'm actually the middle-aged man who's out of shape and got a pot belly. And, you know, that's very relevant to me in the world of fitness, but it's about really understanding who you are. But I think it's also really understanding where people are and where they're at right now. And there's always a piece of the truth of the brand, which is consistent, but we can flex within culture. We can bloom within culture. We can engage culture uniquely in our standing of the brand without being inauthentic. But you've got to find the way to tell your story, to show your brand, to show what good or service you provide in a way that's always rooted in who you truly are and being okay with that and being cool with that. And if there's something that you need to change, take it on as a system across the entire enterprise. Don't just put a marketing sticker on it, because then today people see through that. And that's why advertising and marketing gets that kind of lipstick on a pig approach, because it's just, we're glossing over something. If you got something you need to look at, go fix it. Be transparent, you're fixing it, work towards it. But otherwise, be who you are and celebrate that uniquely and try to meet members or your target where they're at. And I find that conversation is so fascinating because it actually is a human conversation. It's one that actually takes the science of the marketing and really makes it fun. It takes the art of the marketing and really makes it mean something. And then when you pull it together, you can really move the needle. And then your CEO and your CFO and all your constituents can actually see, I understand the strategy. And yes, I'll run with you. And then your job as a marketer becomes so much easier because you've got momentum and support around you.
It just hit me, because it just hit me, and I mean that quite literally, which is, you know, if we spoke to people the way advertising did, they'd punch us in the face. And then the other one is Mike Tyson, who said everyone has a plan or a strategy until they get punched in the face. And now I'm realizing, like, this profession of ours, marketing and advertising, it's full contact right now. We're just getting punched in the face or avoiding being punched in the face. Sure. I mean, we surely must be masochists. I'm just realizing this now.
I think so. You know, I think it's always the best laid plans. Like, right, I mean, I had these big goals coming into Planet Fitness, joining last November. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend some time with all my franchisees, go to all my clubs, go to my markets. And yes, I did some of that. But then it was like, you know what? New Year's is coming. That's our Super Bowl. That's when everybody starts their fitness journey. So it's like, oh, I'm going to need to hunker down with the team and do that and nail that. And then we did that. And then we got through February. And then everything was going to go as according to plan. And then, you know, the wheels, you know, kind of came off for the entire world, and we had to like really lean in. So you've got to have a lot of grit today. You've got to have a lot of understanding of yourself as a leader of the brand that you serve and the business realities, because we are a business. So you definitely want to make sure we're delivering on our goals, but also you need to really lean into what's happening in the lives of your target and your members, because if you don't really understand that, you're inauthentic at best case, and you're irrelevant at worst case. So that's a really important piece that we've got to continually challenge ourselves with this limited time we have of breathing and sleeping and working, exercising, to fit that in and make that a part of our DNA and never get tired of that. And I think that curiosity is what's really needed right now in this time of COVID, coming out of this pandemic, because it won't be the same for us as marketers ever. It never was, actually, from 20 years ago to today. But now we've had a step change, and I don't see that slowing down as we move forward.
I think that's a really interesting. We heard I heard this quote last week, actually, from Ivan Pollard at General Mills, and he said I didn't need this pandemic and COVID to tell me who I was or to discover who I was. I knew who I was before. And I just thought that was an amazing, very, very rich idea. For many people, they've discovered themselves. But I think what you were saying is, and I think I'm hearing this across the board, that for some marketers, this has been the jolt, the kick, the punch that has woken them up. For others, they kind of already on this journey of discovery and realizing we can do better, we can be better. I, by the way, loved what you said about culture, right? That culture actually is this, it's like a sea. It's like this beautiful river, and we can swim in it and we can move around. We're not restricted. We shouldn't have to be restricted. There is that flex and the fluidity and the agility, right? As opposed to the sterility, which is a word that you used earlier, or clinical, this idea that it has to be according to the guidelines. Culture is almost the opposite of brand guidelines. And I think if you get that, you probably have a little bit more of that ability to pivot during these tough times.
Well, it's like I tell my kids when I'm working with them about knowing who they are and being true to themselves, but yet they're engaging with culture, right? So we engage with all kinds of views and opinions and agendas and things that we've got to navigate, but know who you are so you can flex on it, not to be antagonistic or push against it, not to be run over it. Because I think the other thing is we're also getting to this idea of the overall role of consumer activism and engagement with brands and what brands should do. But if you don't know who you are, you can get rolled over by that too, and you'll just be swaying at the wind. It's a delicate, very precise balance that a marketer has to run today. You've got to truly know who you are, but be able to flex around yourselves to engage with those that are different and unique, because we're so complex right now as individuals. We're so complex and divided as a country. And we need to make sure that, again, coming back to our truth, we do it in a way, we bring our business to life in a way that can authentically engage and do it with good. And I've heard in the last week, and what we're talking about in ANA, the message coming up is doing good within this world of business. And I think that is truly the next frontier for us, to really drive a brand. Every brand's different. We're not all altruistic. We're here to make money, of course, but we're also here to actually engage with hearts and minds of real human beings. We're not marketing robots. So you've got to understand your role to do that, and they're not mutually exclusive. And I think that's the biggest unlock we've been talking about as a corporate leadership team here at Planet, and some of the other execs that I've been talking about across industries, is they're not mutually exclusive. In fact, doing good and doing good business, you're actually going to be in a much better position for market share, for strength of your brand, and being able to be agile and to engage in the future.
Yeah, well said. Well, Jacob Sussman asked this question: what is the brand strategy behind the purple and yellow? I find this fascinating and bold. And by the way, these are the same colors as LSU. I mean,
yes,
there are no coincidences in life.
There really are.
How did you figure that one out? Was this part of your evil plan?
No, I wish I could say I was that smart, but actually no. In fact, when I was interviewing for this role, they asked me, it's like, do Thursdays are purple, purple Thursdays. We were on the office for corporate culture. We were purple. Do you have a lot of purple in your wardrobe? And I was like, actually, I do. And they're like, really? And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I went to LSU. My wife went to LSU. My father-in-law went to LSU. My brother went to LSU. I was like, trust me, we got purple and yellow and this purple and gold and this DNA that we're talking about here. So it's been fascinating. But how it came up, it goes all the way back to our founder, Chris Rondo, and the culture of like 1992. I mean, when they were looking around and saying, what keeps people from coming into gyms? And it was all about intimidation. It was all about all the barriers to get me started. And I just didn't feel like I could even walk through the doors unless I was somewhat in shape. And all we had were these big, what we call lunks, these big, guys and bodybuilders. And then the gym was dark and it smelled bad and it was sticky and it was gross. And way back then, before COVID, they identified, no, we can make this an incredible experience where everybody feels welcome. And the purple and yellow was just not in the vernacular of the landscape back then. It was all very masculine, red and black and silver and chrome. And they said, you know what, these colors stand out. Now, the artist in me is like, oh, those are contrasting colors. They create more emotion, which is why collegiate colors are often work so well together. But they came out with the purple and gold back then. They broke through, and then they said, everything that we do, we want to signal that we're different. We want to signal this is a place that's not like a gym you've seen before. And so that started way back in 1992, and that continues to this day. And it's part of how we bring our brand to life, not just on the advertising, but through every touch point that we have, from the moment you walk in the door to the moment you leave, to make sure that you feel welcome and that this is a different place, where you can feel belong and where you can have that support system, which we were talking about, to help you on your journey. Because it's hard. It's hard to stay on a journey for fitness, even a small one. But we know it matters, especially right now.
So Jacob likes that response. He said absolutely brilliant and disruptive. And Jamie loved the quote, right? Doing good is doing good business. And Tom is letting us know that he's ready to go. He's raring and ready to go. But it must be I don't even know where to start, right? With recognizing the obstacles, the physical hurdles and challenges that the industry is faced with right now. It's easy enough to be able to create social distancing, right? Or to be able to just, temporarily close every other machine. But we have that. And then you saw earlier, I had a couple of images of your Super Bowl on New Year's Eve. I mean,
right.
What on earth is New Year's Eve going to look like in 2020? So how do you roll with those punches, and how do you create this, in this bubble, right, of judgment free, and being able to create a safe place for people to exercise? How do you keep moving forward, as opposed to just saying, wave the white flag, we'll just, we'll see you in 2021.
Right. I think that number one, as a brand and a culture, none of us here are wave the white flag kind of guys and gals. We're a fighter. We have that entrepreneurial spirit, and that just permeates our hall. And look, you're talking to the guy who's like, if I were to tell you 20, 30 years ago, whenever I was, way back, even before I started, college, that I would be leading a major fitness brand, I was the runt 90-pound kid that was like, couldn't even pick up a barbell to get into a gym. But my own personal story has taken me to here and what I believe, and how exercise fits in my lifestyle. So life is a funny way of working out. But for us, I would tell you two things. As a marketer, this business is phenomenal because it was always based upon growth. We had 52 consecutive quarters of growth for Planet Fitness, and then COVID hit, and we shut down completely, right? And many businesses in America face this. My marketing is based upon that growth and based upon it. It's a mathematical equation. I'll sign up for it any day. We call it our marketing flywheel. So I went from amazing results building my marketing budget up, especially I was performing in New Year's this year and February, to zero and bringing it down. But at the same time, I was able to lean into the organization together with the leadership team here and say, you know what, marketing is not a cost. This is actually a growth driver for the company, and we're staying on. So we didn't keep the same level of support and spend that we had, but we pivoted, and we did that by working cross-functionally. And what we did was work together with, thank God we already had an incredible playbook, which was differentiated across the entire industry, of our spaciousness, of our cleanliness, of our safety, cleaning stations, all of these things since the beginning. But we're able to say, what do members really want? And how do we take out three things that are driving all behavior right now? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And we had to lean into that, be very honest with ourselves, look in the mirror and say, these are the new barriers. It's not just about me feeling intimidated to come in to work out. Now I've got some very sincere, very scientific barriers that I've got to get over. And what was our playbook for that? We made a 100-page playbook with our operating team. And our leader of operations and all of our leaders across our franchisees organization leaned in, and we brought this, what we call clean-siderate messaging, to life. And that really helped us bring the brand to the next level and start to break down some of these barriers. So number one, we can show that, hey, we actually are an essential business, and we can be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And what keeps me up at night a little bit, a side note, is where would we be as America and the world if we had been leaning into health and wellness even more so than we were? We got 43% of America obese right now, 70% overweight. And we know the correlation of how effective our bodies can combat combat this virus based upon some of these key health metrics. And so I feel a tremendous burden to make sure as a marketer that we make sure that we engage and democratize this to get everyone, as many people as I can, but do it in a way that's safe and effective. Now, that required us to limit. We have social distancing. So we call it social fitnessing. We've got a crowd meter that we just launched, so you can actually check your club before you come. We want to take away the fear and anxiety. And some of the most important things, which I'll talk about in my ANA speech, is we're providing fitness access to everyone for free, even if you don't have a club or don't want to come in or you don't feel comfortable, through our United We Move program, which is a live work in. Now we call it a workout every day on Facebook and across all of our social media channels. But all that being said, Joseph, what I guess I'm saying is we got to take what's core and true to the brand. Then we've got to do what's right by our member and by our team and our people. And we've got to be ruthless in how we operationalize that. And we've got to continue to stay in beta. Like, we're going to continue to get better. We've added the crowd meter. We're going to start making sure that we're having more protocols in, so that you can come in, feel safe, know what you're doing, and have a really great workout. And if you don't want to do that, we're going to give you options. That takes us all the way to New Year's Eve, and we're working that real time. Things change every day, but it will be different, but we're embracing it. And I think that's the other thing we have to do as marketers right now. You've got to lean in to the uncertainty and take that into an advantage. Because one thing that I know for us, for Planet Fitness, America, the world cannot wait for 2020 to get behind us. And New Year's Eve and New Year's will happen, and we will set goals and have a hope and dreams and desires and hopefully positive future for 2021. And that's a tipping point that's always existed and now is going to be really celebrated in a very large way. So you better believe that I'm leaning into New Year's Eve, and we're going to bring our A game. And we're going to do it in a very different way than what America's seen. But we know that this is the time to not be shy, put our heads in the sand. Now's the time for us to put our shoulders back, stand up, and say, this is what we're doing, and we're here to help.
Well, here's what I can do to help, which is on my New Year's Eve show, December 31st, I will do the entire show in my Planet Fitness hat. So
Deal.
if you send me a hat,
I'll get you the new one. Look at this.
Yeah,
look at this bling going on. Preview. You've got the breaking debut right here on your show.
That's what Corona TV is about. We break the news that matters, which is what 2020's hat looks like, and I will wear it. I will wear it on. I hadn't even thought that far ahead. By the way, Jeremy, talk about crazy things, right? When I set up the Zoom after show, etc., I looked at it. I was like, I don't know, recurring. I guess I'll just do it until the end of June. And then it was September. Now I'm like, what's the, should I just do 2099 or something like that? But it's just funny how the time has flown. Time flies when you're in a pandemic. That's the new phrase. But I will wear my hat, and I will talk to you offline. And if some of my viewers and part of our community want to wear the hat in the Zoom after show, we will all be flying those colors on behalf of a brand that is kind of moving forward. We'll move forward with you.
Love it. There's so much more to talk about. You're hitting some key themes. So I will definitely have my team, as they probably are passing out as we're watching this. Yes, guys, we're going to hook Joseph and his viewers up in a way. We'll get you some purple and yellow. Don't worry.
By the way, Tom, who is our resident philosopher, he said purple is the color of philosophy and royalty. Yellow stands for freshness, happiness, positivity, clarity, energy, optimism, intellect, honor, loyalty, and joy. Good combination. So
thank you.
Everything is as it was meant to be. But now, let's talk a little bit about one of the things that I know that you wanted to talk about, which is, and you mentioned it very briefly, the power of being physically healthy, not only on your mental health, which is one topic, but the other recognition that unfortunately, and we even look at, amongst African Americans where obesity, the incidence of obesity is so much higher, that people that were less healthy got hit even harder. They didn't have access, to teams of doctors, etc. It's almost ironic from an opportunistic standpoint that being being a gym or in the health and wellness business is now arguably an essential worker or part of this, which is, if we don't take care of our bodies, our minds will decay, but B, during these tough times and during a global pandemic, we put ourselves at a life disadvantage. So I'd love you to chat a little bit about this connection, and almost feeling like, do you feel like you have an added responsibility now?
Yeah, I think that this pandemic has shown us a lot. I mean, the thing I would tell you that is such a blessing and just such a tremendous sense of responsibility I have at Planet Fitness is truly the concept of the judgment-free zone. And I've been a mass marketer my entire career: PepsiCo, Procter & Gamble back in my agency days, Disney, of course, and even Nissan. But this is the first time where I've come in and I've truly seen a community that is diverse and as representative as America is. And I don't mean that flippantly. I mean that truly. Like, when I go into my clubs, it is young and old. The breakdowns in demographics are almost equal. Income is like a third. Every ethnicity, from straight to the LGBTQ community, it is just all in, and everybody's working. And we have some deconditioned folks who are definitely struggling with weight who are coming in, and we've got triathletes that are actually training in the club as well. And everyone's helping and responding and working together. And I look at that, I'm like, wow, like, this is such an amazing thing that our country needs right now. So, not to get too philosophical on it, but it does exist. This can exist. But at the same time, even at 14 plus million members, our target is 80% of the population in America. That's the folks that are not a member of a gym, have never been a member of a gym before in their life. And then you look at where this epidemic, this pandemic is hitting, and it's really hitting some of the underserved segments. And that's why the value equation of this brand actually matters so much as to this conversation as well. Everything we do as we architect where we're going, our future, the clubs that we're expanding, the footprints, we're making sure that it's $10 a month, because part of this philosophy is the democratization of fitness. That's uniquely what we want to do. Now, there are a lot of folks that can do that, and we welcome them to do that. Every boat will help us, rise this tide up. But we want to do this at scale, and we want to do it in a way that can actually get out there, because we believe at our scale, at our size, with this value, we actually can impact people's lives. And the last thing I would say is we want to meet them where they're at. And this is what changed so rapidly with me coming in. I realized it very quickly. We had all these tools, all this investment in for our app, for different things, for pieces of technology. And thank God that we did. The data streams, the capabilities, we realized very quickly we're going to pivot. I mean, I flew in to Nashville to be with my family because we were transitioning on Friday the 13th in March, and we knew that our clubs might be closing right then or very soon. And the team had this idea, is like, well, let's do a home work-in on Monday, and let's do it for free. I was on the plane, I thought about it, kind of slept on and off, had a few drinks on the plane, and kind of landed and picked up the phone while I landed and said, you know what, guys, we're going to do it every single day. We need to. And I thought maybe we'd be doing it for a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so. Now that's a cornerstone of our brand and who we are. And we have been on for over 170 plus days, streaming every day, helping people through working out at home, to modifying their exercises that they have a limited range of mobility, to actually hitting some of the key challenges that are coming up now that we're seeing through mental health. And so the responsibility, I feel, is actually very important, because what keeps me up at night is how different would we be of a nation to overcome this if we had been 10% healthier, 20% healthier, if we would just get 20 minutes of exercise, at a time, or, and it doesn't mean I'm working out with these crazy routines and diets and everything. I mean, yes, all those things are creative and good, and for sure, but just to get people moving. And that was kind of the unlock for us, Joseph. It was like, let's start where people are. And let's start with, that was United We Move, get them going. You talked about being stuck. Right now, the message for us is unstuck. Like, if you look at what's on air right now, we're talking about it is time to get unstuck, and we're here to help you get unstuck, because just getting started is one of the hardest parts of this thing, especially now with COVID, trying to figure out how to navigate this and feel comfortable. But that burden is one that we as a team are taking on because we believe in it. We believe we'll make the world a better place and the people will feel better. And our underserved populations, our older populations, our younger populations, the entire country and the entire world, because we're larger than just the U.S., has the ability to move this forward. But we got to do it with humanity, with just some simpleness. Break down these barriers. It's not that complex. We just want to get you moving.
I have to tell you, the positioning of Unstuck, it doesn't feel like a tagline. It doesn't feel like shtick. It doesn't feel like marketing anymore. And it also doesn't feel like the entire categories, advertising, which you would see in the first quarter and in particular January. It's not about looks and materialism and superficiality. Right. This is basically, and it's not an exaggeration, to talk about life and death. As you say, if the nation had been 10%, healthier, how might we have looked? How might we have been able to get through this? And I think also, it's funny, our business is filled with cynics, where we could look at positioning and say, well, that just seems like an opportunistic tagline. But the reality is, there aren't many categories that have been hit this hard in terms of all the people that work for you and in the gyms, same like travel industry. And so I think you have the hearts and minds, the hearts of people, of we are with you. We are, we are willing you and the category to figure it out and to move forward together.
Yeah, I think it's really well said. I think that the seeds of this journey have been planted over the course of years. We know it from what we should do, but as humans, what we don't do, and we don't want someone to stick it to us or make us feel better, make us feel more scared. We again want someone to be human. We want someone to come alongside us, shoulder to shoulder, like a friend would, and that's how we go to market. That's what our tone is. And this is not fluffy stuff. I mean, sometimes I would get in previous roles, board meetings, and this would be like, that's a marketing BS. We don't want to talk about that. It's like, no, this is truth, because humans buy our product, humans buy our brand, humans are the ones who actually engage with us. And if you do it in a way that's true and authentic, and you can't fake authenticity, is exactly what you said, you can actually move those hearts and minds. And the movements are little, right? But and that's one of the biggest things that we have versus some of the other fitness brands is the message, the little steps add up, and that can make a difference. And last December, January, I first joined, we had actually launched the study called the BullFit study. It stands for something else, but we called it BullFit. And it was basically breaking down all these tropes, all this Fitspo culture we see on Instagram, to say, you know what? No, it is actually a lot simpler than that, and at least get started. And here's the ways to do it. And let's be real. Let's get real about fitness and talk about, hey, what does 20 minutes look like? Because average Americans think it's 95 minutes to work out to get any results. It's like, no, 20 minutes can make a difference. And that's something that we actually took on. And that's what drove our first quarter, like a stellar performance as we got the year started, because we hit something that people could understand and gave them a way in and a community to support them. And, when you're looking at your flashing your chart for your goals, one of the questions we have is, we look at data. We love looking at our weight, and it fluctuates and different things. But, the big question we also ask is, how do you feel? Do you feel better? Is it, or, now every day will fluctuate. Every day we have something different, but do you feel we're moving in the right direction? And I think as marketers, we have to also take that fitness challenge to ourselves and say, instead of getting overwhelmed in this crazy world we live in, trying to figure out how to leverage data and digital and all of these pressures that we have, are we getting better every day? Are we moving the needle? Are we going the right direction? Because that accretive direction will help us. But at the same time, if you're not able to lead that as a leader and take those steps, that atrophy can also keep you from your performance and keep you from impacting your business, and actually lead to a pretty vicious doom loop. So we have to be not Pollyanna, not rose-colored glasses, but we have to have a vision that is bright for what we want the world to be and why we believe it. And we need to just take the steps with our industry, with our function, to help lead the agenda that way. And agenda is actually an okay word. Like, people sometimes say that's negative. We're in this very politically charged environment. We all have agendas. but it's just, can you align it in a way that that you can collaborate and create that shared
Right.
sense of momentum within your organization, within your community, to do good and to drive performance.
Well, Tom said that the Greeks understood that physical fitness should precede and walk with philosophical fitness. And Rodin's thinker is a very muscular guy. But for you, your quote that you have to decipher, which is a daily little hobby of mine, is this one. Physical fitness is not only one of the most important keys to a healthy body, it is the basis of dynamic and creative intellectual activity. Who said that? You got so intimidated by that, you just disappeared on me, JT.
Technical difficulties. Yeah, reconnecting. There I am. Something happened. That was weird. So
did you get intimidated by the question?
Yeah, I had to like zap you off. No. Perfect timing though. Wow.
I know. Should I put you out of misery before you take the camera off again? I'm kidding.
No. It's all good. I'm all for a challenge.
Well, I'll tell you who said it. JFK.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? So, so the connection between healthy body, healthy mind, it's so important now. Now more than ever, whether it is just being able to, for me, it was getting on the road, listening to podcasts and just clearing my mind and being inspired along the way. But for other people, of course, it's the ability to have that. You may have, what do you call it, social fitness. You may have social distance, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to be disconnected from this wonderful community. All right, so in the time we have left, it is time to segue into our special ANA component, where we get a little sneak preview about your upcoming keynote. And well, this is the keynote, right? The keynote is on Friday, October 23rd at 2:45 p.m. Maybe the time has moved, but it's called United We Move, a Force for Good. But in the notes that you sent to me, it was United, and then in tiny small print, those scared, frustrated, anxious, and a little bit crazy, we move. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of a sneak preview. I know you've alluded to it before, but maybe just expand a little bit on the keynote.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be really interesting. I did allude to it, that flight that I had back to Nashville, but part of the little bitty Mickey Mouse type that we've got on the presentation was part of what I wanted to talk about is the very human emotional journey as leaders, as marketing practitioners that we have when we have to be courageous. So yes, it's easy to kind of create a case study and talk about all the great things that we do, but part of the judgment-free zone concept and what me and my team believe and how we operate is just to be really, really real. So my hope is that I can have that conversation with the ANA and showcase how we were pivoting and how we started the journey for United We Move. And of course, we'll talk about agility. We're going to talk about how to fight for what you believe in. And I say that in parentheses like a gentleman, because I think that there's a way to be civil and discourse and drive an agenda. We talked about that a little bit in a way that you can actually create momentum and get buy-in. And how do you inspire action and an organization to follow through the chaos? And that was also part of the journey that me and the team and the incredible marketers and agency partners that I work through were able to lead. The other piece that I think is going to be interesting in that conversation that ANA has been talking about is how do you actually bring to life the function of marketing and create the alignment and the KPIs and the shared buy-in of how marketing drives the business. And so part of that is also the internal discussion with my CFO, with my president, with my CEO, and our franchisee base on how we would spend marketing dollars when our club's closed. How would you actually put marketing out there when you can't actually go into our club versus hoarding capital and cash? And why would you do that versus just being a flippant guy who likes to make ads, which is sometimes the reputation we get as marketers, which is thankfully not the reputation I have or the team has here. So it's about courage. It's about being dynamic. It's also about dreaming and then also doing, which is one of my key lessons learned from the Walt Disney Company and the Imagineers that I had the pleasure of working with there. So I hopefully it'll be a really great conversation. It's evolving even as we're putting together the final touches on the presentation and getting ready for it a little bit later this month. I know that 25% of my story will be different by the time I get to stage, because that's just the world we live in right now.
Well, I tell you, Walt Disney's "If You Can Dream It, You Can Do It" is probably one of my, if not top three, maybe my mantra. It's funny. It's "If you can dream it, you can do it," and Nike's "Just Do It." And I just realized now in talking to you that two of maybe the three, statements that are part of my own true north or North Star have the word "do it" in it, as in just do it, move forward, don't get stuck. It's very interesting. If you want to register for the 2020 Masters of Marketing Conference, you can do that by going to ana.net/masters2020. Of course, by subscribing to the show, you're going to get a comp, and I've got a few more of them to give away. So, I mean, can you imagine actually today you got 60 minutes of JT, and if you come to the Zoom after show, you'll get a little bit more with him. But to see him in action, a little bit more, I mean, what a treat. I got to tell you, JT, you may not look like the typical gym rat or, gym CMO, but you are certainly a Hercules of a marketing leader. And you have it in your DNA. One of the little snippets about you that we didn't get to, but at 12:59, I can embarrass you just one.
Oh, no.
Just one little bit more is the fact that I didn't really know this about you, but you were part of the original Crash the Super Bowl team. And, I've never worked on an image more than this one, because if you look very carefully, you can see your band of brothers and sisters. You can see Carl, it's amazing, Carl Laredo, who is at Wendy's now, and Mukherjee, who's at Pernod Ricard, Rudy Wilson, who's at SC Johnson. So there you are, the team that actually put together this. I am super excited to know this, because, when I wrote Life After the 30-Second Spot, and I, introduced the concept of consumer-generated content, this was before YouTube had even been founded, before they destroyed the term and they called it user-generated content,
right?
Or user-generated media. But this was the ultimate for me, which is why on earth are we not finding a brand that uses the biggest platform, the biggest stage in the world to give the consumer a voice? And you guys were part of that team. So kudos to you guys and your team.
Thank you. There's an amazing blessing to work with Ann, Rudy, Carl, Nicole Wilson. I mean, the Rockstar team, and you've had so many folks that have a PepsiCo in their background. What an amazing company with a training ground. It seems like so long ago, Twitter wasn't even a thing when we did the first one. Like, it was literally like,
right.
Working with Yahoo and Yahoo.com, and look how fast the world has changed. But it was all about understanding millennials when they were teens, young adults at the time, and putting them in control. And it was providing the access. We had the tools for the platform within the tone of the brand, and how do you actually bring it to life? It was a fascinating conversation, by the way, with our CEO and the global leaders at PepsiCo that completely supported Ann and Rudy and the entire team and I as we brought that to life.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to hang out with JT and I for just a little bit longer and find out more about this seminal, unprecedented, I hate to use that word, but it was unprecedented at the time. It was unprecedented when the word unprecedented meant something.
So
JT,
true.
It was, we might not have got an opportunity to get to know each other before the show, but we certainly had that pleasure now. I think I'm going to leave us with Leslie Laredo. It's "If you can dream it, you can do it. It's just do it." And JT and all the folks at Planet Fitness, I would join Leslie in saying, keep doing it, because you certainly are the embodiment of what the show is about: hope, positivity, and optimism. And so thank you for your time today. I'm very proud to leave you with the official seal of approval on the show, which comes from none other than the man himself.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at CoronaTV.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.